At Christmas time, there's always loads of games being played, including the old favourite, hide and seek.
It could be to keep the kids quiet, or it could be to prepare them for the adult version, where they could win £100,000.
So forget hiding in the wardrobe or under the bed.
Damn it, I knew you'd find me.
Would you have what it takes to go all the way?
Or would you be hunted?
Hello, Chief, how you doing?
All right, thank you. More importantly, how are you doing?
We're all right. We like a challenge.
Stand by, stand by, stand by. Out, out, out. Up to 7 persons.
7 persons.
8.
Short of jumping into the canal, their options are reasonably limited, and we also think they may have had a bit too much to drink last night.
It's a BMW, Ben. We have got live telematics on the vehicle.
You fucking beauty.
Curtains drawn.
Why are they drawn at this time of day?
Be in that fucking house.
There's movement, yeah? Confirm movement?
There is movement in the property. Hunter team, open the door, please. House surrounded. My name's Craig.
And I'm Nat. In 2022, we discovered Hunted and are now obsessed.
But like with every other obsessive TV show we watch, we're left with unanswered questions.
Like, what does it take to be a deputy? Do you get some sort of badge or a big hat?
Do you ever miss a capture if you go to the toilet at the wrong time?
In a competition for who is the best to work for, who would win? Hunted HQ or the Heist HQ?
And would you ever swap the comfort of the office for the thrill of the chase on the ground?
Let's find out as we welcome back Deputy Ray Howard
to the Hunted Podcast.
Could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me.
Welcome back to the Hunted Podcast. Hey.
Hey.
It's Christmas.
It's what?
It's Christmas!
So that must mean that these are our Christmas episodes?
Yeah.
Yes! Welcome back to a very festive Hunted Podcast. Hope you all are okay and you're having a good December so far.
Yes.
Have you got what you asked Santa for yet?
Not yet.
Did you ask Santa for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4, possibly 5, not edited them all yet, episodes of the Hunted Podcast where every single episode contains an interview?
Yes.
Do you know what? Santa Claus listens to you.
Does he?
Because he is delivering you not 1, not 2, not 3, 4, possibly 5, depending on the edit. Interviews, episodes over the next 4 or 5 weeks, depending on the edit.
Yeah.
Of interviews with people from Hunted.
Ooh.
Not 1 interview, but 2 interviews.
2?
I can offer you 1 person from HQ.
Okay.
And 1 fugitive.
Alright.
Deal or no deal? Sorry, wrong show.
Deal.
Deal it is. How about we go back in time?
Yeah.
And we pick up where we left off, which was Hunted Revisited. We were watching series 1, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
And we were having a nice old chat with Deputy Ray Howard.
Oh, we were. He brought biscuits.
Can you remember what happened after we finished the chat, which we've just left off with people about a few weeks ago, which was Hunted Revisited? We pressed stop recording and save. Then what happened?
We had a chat with him.
We didn't just have a chat with him, we had a mammoth chat with him.
We did have a mammoth chat.
Over an hour and a half worth of conversation, plus the bits we didn't record.
Yeah.
Which we're going to share with you now, the bits that we did record, that is.
Yeah.
We've split this up into 2 parts. We recorded it all in one, but we've split it up into 2 parts because, let's be honest, there is a lot of stuff in there.
It's quite long.
And you guys need a bit of a break in between. So we're going to stop it halfway through, and you'll hear from us again at the end. Now, there is a little bit of difference in the audio. Obviously, we recorded that in a big open room.
Yeah.
It sounds all right, though, and then this little bit of an intro is just recorded on our phones, to be fair. So a little bit of a difference, but hopefully it won't be too much of a difference. Before we delve into the interview, If people want to write in with their Hunted comments and wish us a Merry Christmas, or play along with a very good feature, which I think is a very good feature.
I think it's brilliant.
Well, you came up with it, which is...
the Capture Calendar.
Every single day on our Instagram and our Twitter, we're posting... So every evening before the night, we're posting 4... Well, you explain it.
So, in the evening of the night before, 'twas the night before the Capture Calendar.
Not scripted. She just came up with that on her own.
We're posting 4 pictures that are clues to a capture.
So they are screenshots of the actual capture itself.
Yeah. You then need to guess who is being captured from said 4 pictures.
And then the following morning...
We'll tell you who it is.
Think of it like Capture Eve and Capture Day. Simple as that, see? Imagine what happens when we put our little brains together. Also, make sure that you check out our Facebook where we're just posting the photos. We're not posting the videos, we're just doing that on the Instagram. That may or may not be to do with A, copyright issues, B, me forgetting to do it on Facebook the very first day, so continuity was out the window, or C, all of the above.
I'm going to C.
Correct answer.
Thank you.
Right, let's delve into Ray Howard. So, remember... this was filmed... Wow, when was this filmed?
Ooh.
When did we go to see Ray?
September, October?
Late September, early October,
Yeah,
I want to say.
so.
I think the first weekend of October.
Possibly, yes.
It was filmed in a remote location, in a meeting room somewhere, which we hired for the day. We've just been talking about, obviously, Hunted Revisited Series 1.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of overspill, but we do talk more Hunted in general, and not just Hunted in general, do we?
No, we have a little chat about the heist.
Not just a little chat about the heist, we have a good chat about that.
Yes.
It all sort of merges into one. We had no questions prepared, no
No.
nothing. We just talked.
Yeah.
So sit back and enjoy a Hunted interrogation with...
Deputy Ray Howard.
Hello and welcome back to the Hunted podcast. We are in an undisclosed location and yes, we've kept him hostage. We're going to quiz him all about his time on Hunted. Last time you heard the show, we was talking all about Series 1. And if you've not listened to it, go back and listen to it because it was a really good episode, wasn't it?
It was really good.
Really insightful and so insightful, we thought we'd ask him some more questions.
Yes, we did, yeah.
So, just remind people who we've got on the show.
We have got a member of the HQ team, Deputy Ray Howard.
Ray, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. We've made you a coffee. We've not held you against your will. That's important to say less than a minute into the podcast. You're not here against your will. You are free to leave any time.
Yes, I'm free to leave any time. Get me help! Get me help!
Of course he's joking. It's fine. If you want to send in any questions, comments or opinions on anything Hunted...
You can use Instagram at HuntedPod, Twitter at HuntedPod, Facebook HuntedPod, or email huntedpod@outlook.com.
Right, it's fair to say before we get started that we've got no real idea of where this is going to head in the next half an hour, 45 minutes or so.
Yep.
We're just going to fire questions at Ray about his time on Hunted and maybe the heist and a few other things as well. But we are not going to talk about what we've not seen on screen yet because we can't.
Nope.
So we're not. So if you're listening to this thinking, oh, I'm going to get some secrets about the next Celebrity Hunted or the next series of Civilian Hunted, switch off now. But don't switch off because we want you to listen. That's how it works,
I'll tell you a secret about what's coming out. It's going to be great.
I don't think that's a secret. That's a given. I did think for a second.
I like that secret.
I like that secret as well. I think the best place to start is right at the beginning. So obviously we heard last time from you that you weren't involved in Series 1, that you didn't really watch it too much because you were a serving officer at the time.
Yeah.
Before Hunted came the heist. So take us right back. How did you get involved with the heist and how did that then snowball into becoming a firm member of the Hunted team?
Yeah, so I was in my office being a police officer, senior police officer, and I kept getting emails about this thing called the heist, which I deleted. And about the fourth or fifth time, I thought, well, I'll open this. I looked at it, and it said it was filming the month I retired. So I thought, well, do you know what? I've got nothing else lined up. Why not? So I sent them an email, and then I had a Teams interview, which I thought I'd been given the old cold shoulder because nobody called me. But it turned out the person who was going to call me was sick. So eventually got the Teams interview. Went up to London, got a camera pointed in my face, and two lovely producers just firing questions at me to see how it would all go. And then they sent the video off to Sky, and Sky said, yeah, he's okay. He's all right. We'll have him. So then became a member of the Heist team. Fantastic team, really enjoyed it. And then never thought I'd be on Hunted, because obviously they were two different shows for two different companies. But when the Heist finished, I got the call to say, why don't you come over to Hunted? You know, we've got a place for you. So, of course, I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
Sounds like there's a lot of fortune involved as well in that, because obviously you wouldn't have done it if you didn't retire. Something would have piqued your interest with the email. Maybe it was just the repetitive nature of it landing in your inbox and you just wanted them to piss off, basically.
Yeah.
But you get the look from there, you do it, you get involved in it, you get into this world of TV, and then COVID hits. Yeah. Ben, who was the chief at the time, who'd been deputy on it since Series 1, went off to do Hunted America and then Hunted Australia as well later on down the line. So his seat was vacant. Blex, who was the chief before that, had already gone, because that's why Ben had been pushed up.
Yeah.
And it was almost like they needed to redo it. And there was obviously the break in filming everything because of COVID and stuff like that in the world as well. So almost like all the ducks aligned for you to sort of come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because if people hadn't moved on, there wouldn't have been a space for me. So, yeah.
And it's, I guess when you sort of get that as well and you go into it, you do start to rewatch it, and you start to have a little look about it, and you start to think, what did they originally approach you to do? Did go in straight away to be part of HQ, or was there maybe a part of your thought process which thought, I might end up on the ground team, or maybe even like some other hunters, you could have potentially gone on and be a fugitive, although at that point it was more about the cash prize. But mind you, Sarah Kibble in Series 6 was, and still is, a serving officer, so, you know, nothing to stop you doing it.
Yeah, no, they didn't. They never offered me on the ground at all. I think I'd say I'm too old, but there are actually ground hunters as old as me, to be fair. But no, they never offered me on the ground. So we're straight into headquarters. That's what they had for me. So I think I would have enjoyed being on the ground, although I tell you what, they did an half drive. I mean, they drive a long way, and then sometimes they're put in hotels at the very last minute. Can be a little bit ropey. So I think it's lots of fun on the ground, and they have a lot of laughs, but I think it's a little bit of a grind sometimes as well.
And I think with the ground team as well, you know, there is only so much they can do, and I get this because we were speaking to some of the Australian ground team after their first series had aired, and they were really frustrated that a lot of the ground team's processes weren't shown on screen, and they don't maybe get the recognition that they deserve, because they do a lot of the footwork, which you don't see because it's the natural part of the process. But you are putting together 6 episodes, which are, when you take into consideration the advertising as well, you're looking at 45 minutes tops. So you can't put in what they do.
No, absolutely. And I think that can be, you know, difficult for people, but the reality is for Hunted, if you look across that team, okay, so if you look at the ground hunters, headquarter hunters, and you look at what they've done and what they've achieved in their working lives, you have got an incredible and a formidable group of people that, you know, it would take me hours to sit here and tell you everything that they've done, as you find out as you go along. So your ground hunters are, you know, incredibly capable investigators. They've got massive cases under their belts. But sometimes I think they're portrayed as these kind of predators, you know, all dressed in black and coming after you. And obviously they're physical specimens as well, aren't they? So they're quite scary.
Yeah, I'm surprised we actually managed to get JP for 2 hours to come out of the gym.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, you know, they are formidable individuals. And I guess in a show that's only 45 minutes an episode, with so much going on, plus you've got to get the fugitive side of the story as well, which is, you know, the interesting part. You can't cover all of that. But honestly, and it's not just the ground hunters, you're going to headquarters as well. And the people that are in there, I'm in absolute awe. When, you know, we see people's CVs, your jaw would drop. These are high quality people. We've got 4 doctors in there, you know, not medical doctors, but people with doctorates. And, you know, outside of a university, you probably wouldn't have that many in one office.
No.
It's crazy to think about that. What about yourself? Give us a little bit of a backstory on you, if you can, about sort of your history in the police and sort of what you've been doing. What qualifies you to be in HQ?
Well, 30 years in the police, doing lots of different things.
You've not.
I'm not old enough.
Not
I'm not old enough. I know. Well, I did start in my early teens. No, I was in the RAF initially. I was actually a military police officer to start with, only for a couple of years, and then I left and joined the civilian police. So 30 years doing that, obviously including detective roles and even firearms at one point as well. They actually gave me a gun, believe it or not, which is quite troubling looking back. Never used it. But what I ended up doing was I started heading up a department called Intelligence and Specialist Operations. So that was all the covert stuff. And so one of our roles was to find people that were wanted that had gone to ground, had gone missing. So that's what we did. I had various teams working for me, serious organised crime teams, covert teams, even our covert human intelligence sources. So it's all that kind of secret, sneaky stuff. So I ran that towards the end of my career. And then when I retired, I still teach police officers, but leadership and management sort of stuff. But I've done serious and organised crime teaching, modern slavery. I specialised in that for a while because that was a particular crime that my teams spent a lot of time looking at. So what qualifies me to go on Hunted? 30 years in the police and real life experience of hunting fugitives.
Yeah, and again, it's all those experiences which come into it, and those skill sets which you bring to it. I want to go back to the heist briefly, though, because I know there's a lot of fans of the show out there, and like we've said before, haven't we? That was the first show that we watched before Hunted.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I don't really know how we came across the heist. I feel like it was just something that we found. And ended up watching it, but we really enjoyed the heist, and I think it was more like, I don't know what they were called, the contestants, or
I don't know whether they were called fugitives. I can't remember.
No, they weren't fugitives, were they? They were, I guess, they were suspects, and then
suspects. Yeah.
I liked watching what the suspects did, the places that they hid their money, the lengths that they went to keep that money and hide it. And also, obviously, you saw the normal reaction of, I've got this amount of money, I'm going to go shopping.
Yeah. And do you know what I think when I compare Hunted and the Heist? It's Hunted in reverse. Hunted, the end goal is to stay hidden and to get to the cash prize, especially in the later series. Series 1 aside, obviously, in Celeb. But the civilian series, it's all about getting to that 28 days or 25 days and getting the cash. Whereas the Heist, it's more about committing the crime and then the steps that you take after, almost like a real life version of the Great Train Robbery. What are you going to do with all this loot? What are you going to move and things like that? And I think that as a concept, I really wish that they'd have done more than 2 series, to be honest. I mean, Hunted is great for like the adrenaline hit, but the Heist, I think, is a more realistic crime that you do. I think someone's more than likely in their life to rob a bank than what they are just to become a fugitive, because when you think of what a fugitive is, it's a more serious crime that they've committed to go on the run in the first place. So I think the idea of it is slightly more relatable to the average person who's watching it.
Yeah, I think so, because and Hunted is, like you said, you use the word a bit of an adrenaline rush, and it is, and it's kind of spies, isn't it? Effectively, if you're on the run, then you've done something really, really serious in the real world to become a fugitive. But most criminals, they commit the crime and then they carry on living where they're living, and they try and get away with it. That's what the heist was. So no one was until the very end, which was very similar to Hunted, where they had to make it to a point, an extraction point.
Yeah, you've got to end the game.
You've got to end it somewhere.
I think they used it as turning their dirty money into clean money, money laundering, essentially.
Effectively. So the money was no longer traceable, and so we couldn't seize it. But either was amazing where they hid it, behind the cooker in one place, which is, that's a real place where people would hide it. They wouldn't think anyone would look. Burying it, all the sorts of things that people do. And I thought that was amazing to see. What would you do if you've got all that money and the police are after you? Where are you going to hide it, and how are you going to stop them from finding out that it was you? So it was very much like an organised crime group sort of scenario, other than the organised crime group in that case. They weren't actually connected. before they committed the crime, which would be incredibly unusual. So if you found one criminal or one pair of criminals, it wouldn't necessarily lead you to the rest of them. Whereas in the real world, it generally would.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And the only sort of thing that I don't like about the heist, but I think that's more of a viewer preference, is that there was a fake element to it because it was like a fake village, a fake police station. But I actually quite like that because it made, in the other way, because it made it feel a little bit more real. Sometimes with Hunted, you do get a detachment between HQ and the ground team, whereas it was just one lot. And of course now you've got a lot of crossovers with Hunted. And the obvious ones are yourself, JP, but there's a lot more that works in that Hunted, that heist team, which had now transferred over.
Yeah, George, Adara, Giles. There's a number of us that have come across, and it's great to see everyone. And that was the thing with the heist, because we all came back. And for me and Sue Hill, we were kind of a mixture of headquarters and ground hunters, because we went out and interviewed people. And I think that was the biggest difference. I really enjoyed the interviews on the heist. Really enjoyed the interviews, and I particularly on the second one, where there were the two lads, I can't remember their names, they were really nice lads, but oh my goodness me. I didn't interview them, I think it was Craig that interviewed them, but or one of them, and he just folded like a piece of paper. He just, with hardly any effort at all, he got that confession. And I think that's interesting, seeing how much people it's not real, they're not going to prison, but the pressure that they felt was absolutely real for them.
Yeah, because they are playing to keep that money. They are playing to change their life. I mean, I can't remember whether it's Series 1 or Series 2, but it's a father and son team, and they're doing it for the son's child, who I think...
Series 1, that was, yeah.
And that obviously really pulls on the heartstrings, but the emotion of going through it, you're doing it for a purpose, and you want to get through it. And then you got the complete opposite. People who were just doing it for a laugh. There was I think they were two best friends, and what the first thing he did with the money, he went and brought a KFC, which was just, of course you would.
Which series was it where there was a guy who, I think he was a law student, and he, on the way to their initial meeting point before they went, and whether it was the van or the actual bank, he walked up without his face covered.
Yes, that was it Ben? I want to say Ben.
I can't remember what his name was, but his face wasn't covered, and it was like he was just going for a morning stroll. And he hadn't even thought about, cameras catching him on his way or anything. And I think he very quickly folded once you found
Yeah,
him.
I think he was a forensics student, if I remember rightly.
On those lines.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ben and Georgia. It's difficult to remember now, but and everyone else, of course, was wearing masks. Yeah. So he stood out like a sore thumb, because everyone else has got tights or stockings on their head, and he's got nothing. He tried to pass it off as being his brother.
Yeah, yes.
Which is that's a very fraternal thing to do, isn't it? It wasn't me, it was my brother.
Oh, it's so silly. Because the thing with that is as well, I don't know whether it went through their brains that the actual chase, if you like, started once they'd nicked the money. But actually, no, if you were investigating a bank job, Hatton Garden, for example, is probably the most common, most recent one which people know about. There's been numerous films and all of that about it, numerous TV series. The investigative process, it starts when you find out what's happened, but you don't work forward like you do in Hunted, you work backwards.
Yeah, because the crime's been committed. And especially the second series, because it was £1 million. I mean, it was...
Yeah, because they changed the title of the series to £1 Million Bank Heist rather than just the heist. Yeah,
so it was a lot of money, so people were really invested, and you can imagine if you've lost your share of that, which was like £111,000 each, around that sort of area. That's a lot of money that by this time you've started thinking is already yours.
Yeah.
And when we come along and take, and we had to get it to CPS charging standards, and then they would have to give the money back.
What happened to the stuff that they'd already, the stuff that they'd already bought with it? So, I think one lot booked a holiday with theirs. Does that stay, or?
That does. It does. So, again, like Hunted, there are rules. So they're allowed to spend a certain amount of money. And, of course, if you think about it, it's quite a good idea. Because if criminals steal something, they will tend to spend it. They're not going to keep it. So they tend to spend it. So if you had a TV show like this where people just kept the money and didn't spend it, didn't give you any clues.
Yeah, because that's the obvious thing to do, isn't it? I'll steal it, I'll sit on it for 28 days and go hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to work. That's not realistic.
So you're allowed to spend a certain amount of it, and you get to keep what you spend. So it makes sense to spend it.
Yeah.
because you think, well, okay, if I get caught, at least I'll have this. So it was their honeymoon, bless them, as well, that they'd paid for. So no, they did get their honeymoons. Yeah, we wouldn't be that cruel.
I would. I think if you've paid for it and it's like in use, you could have kept it. But if you've paid for, but you've not used it, then as in like if it's a holiday and you've not had the holiday yet, then I'm withdrawing.
That's harsh, Craig. That is harsh.
I'm a harsh person.
But it's like Hunted, where whether it's for Stand Up to Cancer, and people genuinely believe, bless them, that when we catch somebody, that means there's less money.
Yes.
Going to Stand Up to Cancer, as if we would do that, as if we'd be involved in it. Oh yes, let's take money away from Stand Up to Cancer. That's what we want to do, and it couldn't be further from the truth. We do it because we want to support Stand Up for Cancer. So we don't stop any money going by catching people.
It was just such a good concept, and I think it was a more realistic concept than what Hunted is. But Hunted, for some reason, has continued to grow, whereas the Heist sort of stopped after 2 series. But maybe again, it's the world of TV. We're talking about why everyone questions online, like why we've not seen another advertisement for the next series of normal Hunted to be filmed. But there's a big cost to it. You're talking about, well, let's look at the parallels. Celebrity Hunted, there is no cash prize because it's literally just for Stand Up to Cancer, and the way that they raise the money is it's the fees that they would charge for going on the show is donated.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Whereas normal Hunted, £100,000 price, so straight away £100,000 saved. Then you've got to think about all the equipment, all the kit, all of that stuff. There's a cost to that, and the way to reap that back and make it is advertising.
Yeah.
But we're in such a point at the country at the minute that the way people spend on advertising is different.
Yeah.
So like working in the advertising sector and in marketing sector, people will try and do things which is a more organic process to advertise and not spend money, which is why broadcasters are finding it difficult to make shows like Hunted, and that's exactly why shows like The Heist, where they've raised the stakes so much so in the second series, they can no longer match that, and therefore it wouldn't get the same reception.
Yeah.
£1 million prize, you don't see that now.
No.
It's so unheard of.
Yeah, and it is about that revenues, isn't it? And of course, celebrity is always helpful. That's why I think you're seeing celebrity shows, because people love to see celebrities, don't they? And they're entertaining, so that helps. But you couldn't do a celebrity heist.
No.
Because you'd know who you were looking for straight away. And that's the thing with Hunted, you know who you're looking for on day one, so it doesn't matter who they are. And I think people love like you say, the adrenaline rush of Hunted is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's good fun, and it's high impact all the time, whereas the Heist is a bit of a slow burn, really.
I'm going to ask a question now, which I hope you don't take the wrong way and you use it against me. But
I can't promise that.
I know. This is why it's a risk. There's a risk in everything. Sue Hill on The Heist.
Yeah.
Lisa Thika on Hunted. If you had to choose just one to do a new show with, doesn't matter what the show is, anything like policey, whatever, who are you choosing? And you can't say no comment.
Oh, see, that's really an unfair question.
I did say. I know. I did warn. I did pre-warn.
It's quite mean.
Yeah,
I know.
Well, I certainly won't go no comment, but you'll forgive me if I don't make a choice.
I won't.
Well, you won't forgive me, but I'm prepared to live with that. No, well, because I mean, Sue is absolutely fantastic. She's one of the most warmest, caring people that you'll ever meet. So really enjoy working with Sue. She what would I say with Sue? She wouldn't mind me saying this actually. Sue talks a lot, which is not a bad thing, but she does talk a lot. But she's absolutely lovely. Lisa, she's currently serving. She's really on it. She's she's funny. She is so funny. She plays jokes as well. Like she sometimes. Oh, there was one time she made a call she'd gone out of the studio, pretended to be somebody grassing up one of the fugitives, and called in. I can't remember. I think it was Justin that took the call, and he's taking the notes and everything, writing it all down. And then Lisa walks in on the phone as she put on this voice, and everyone's like, "Oh, fuck," because we thought it was a genuine thing. So all I would say is I would happily do anything with either of those two. They're both fantastic, formidable, and wonderful ladies who have got an amazing history of investigation behind them, and I would be happy to work with both of them.
It's a very standard answer, and I think he got out of that well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now dreads to think what's going to come back my way later on in the show. So, like I said before, I'm more than happy for tables to be turned and for us to be quizzed, which is all good fun. So Hunted comes about, obviously you've got really fond memories of the heist. Hunted comes about, you do that, you get it all filmed and everything. What was the reaction when Hunted first came out? Because the first one we saw on screen was the first celebrity one with yourself. So we're talking the likes of Ewan Thomas, Richard Whitehead, people like that, the Locks and things like that. What was the reaction when it first came on? Because in terms of a viewership, it was a big change in the show because entirety of HQ had pretty much changed. The set had changed. There were almost new ground hunters. What was the reaction to?
I think when you make a big change like that, you do expect a certain reaction, which we did get, which was where's Ben? Where's Blex? We don't like these new people. We like the old people. Bring back the old people. Entirely understandable as well, because they were fantastic. People that went before us. But over time, you start getting, now we're the people that they probably wouldn't want to see replaced, bizarrely, because they get used to it. So you're always going to get that. So I think we certainly got a certain reaction as, we don't like change, and and I'm sure Ben got it when he replaced Blex to a certain degree as well. Yeah. But I think over time, people grow more accepting. I've never had any kind of negative attacks on social media or anything like that. At all, personally. So, I think it was positive.
It's quite interesting to see as well, because obviously we saw the celebrity one first, but I don't think that was the order in which you filmed them. I think you filmed the civilian one first, unless I'm getting it. No, actually, no, that'd be wrong, because, you've done 2 celeb, 1 civilian. So I think it might have been the celebrity hunted that we've just seen with the Speakmans.
Yeah.
That might have been done before Kibble's series, but showed after.
Do you know what? I can't remember,
back
Craig.
to back.
Honestly. They were definitely back to back.
Yeah,
because we were away for 7 weeks, whatever it was, to film both. So which one came first? I honestly can't remember.
Because you would have done, you definitely. So it would have been, the Lock series that you filmed first, which was quite fun. How did you find that process when you went into it? Because obviously you'd had a little bit of TV experience with doing the heist, but that's literally, and then you're going in with all these new people. You had to form a bit of a relationship with Lisa. I'm guessing you'd never worked with in normal life before.
No, I'd never met Lisa before. No, so I think we bonded pretty well, pretty quickly. As I say, Lisa's got a cracking sense of humour, so she makes you laugh, which is always helpful for breaking the ice and getting things going. And obviously the established team as well. Hattie on that series. Yeah. So Hattie was on that series. So and Hattie's awesome. Really welcoming. Smiley Steve. I know you call him Smiley Steve. I don't call him Smiley Steve. I just call him Steve. He's a smart, really smart guy and a lovely guy. So felt very, very welcome. It's a little harder with Hunted because you're on the set, in the studio almost all the time, so you don't get out as much. And they kind of stagger the lunch breaks and that sort of thing. Whereas with the heist, it was much more, you could get out and about. So myself and Sue would go visiting. So I think it's a higher pressure. It's a higher pressure on Hunted.
I think one of the differences as well is the fact that in the heist, you do get to interrogate fugitives or fugitives' families and associates, whereas in Hunted, it happens a little bit in the early series. Like we see Blex throwing cash down to try and get one of the fugitives to give up his mate or give up extraction. But you don't see that in the later series where you guys are. Do you sort of wish that element was there, that you could get the chance to interrogate people? Because I guess that's your bit of your skill as well.
Well, absolutely, and we do it. And we've done, in the later civilian one, we've done some of that. And indeed, I know George Bradley did it in the celebrity one as well. Difficulty is, of course, that with the heist, you've got your suspects and they can trip up because they're obviously lying to you. The difficulty with Hunted is you've usually got somebody in, either a captured fugitive and you're trying to find out about the other fugitives, or maybe it's an associate. The chances of them on national TV turning on somebody else is fairly limited. So there's not as much to be gained from an interview in Hunted as there is in the Heist. However, you've got to keep trying it. Now, whether it makes the air, of course, depends on how it goes. But I've been involved in a number of interviews since doing Hunted, but they've not made the air because people just tell you to get stuffed, which can be amusing in its own right. But it's almost, if it's expected that that's what they're going to do, and that is what they do, then there's no real interest for the audience. So I think unless somebody actually gives something away, it probably wouldn't make the cut.
Yeah, I think one thing which runs parallel with both, though, and this is what I think fascinates us a little bit, is human behaviour. Because in both settings, it's obviously a game and all of that, but it's the way that they react to certain situations. That human behaviour side of things is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
To try and understand the processes which people will go through, the emotion. People go, oh, well, it's fake, it's a TV show. But once you're in that situation, and it must be for the same for you in HQ, yeah, you've got a camera team around you. You are expected to perform a little bit to hype up certain situations. But everything you do, if this was a real life, you would be doing anyway. So it's almost like becomes like the cameras aren't there. Yeah,
you soon forget about the cameras, and just go about your business. But for us, we're very immersed into it. It's in the back of our minds. I was saying to Natalie earlier that in the back of our minds, we know it's not real. There's no stakes as such. Like with real policing, there could be some pretty high stakes. But in the forefront of our mind, no, that doesn't matter. We're in a competition here, and many of us have been in the police or the military, intelligence services, whatever it is, for a long, long time. And that part of our psyche takes over. And that part of our psyche is what's driving us forward. So you can say it's not real. Well, yeah, I get that. But for us, we are so immersed in it, it damn well feels like it. And we're playing it for real. We are doing it for real. We are doing that investigation. There's no two ways about it. So, yeah, I take what people say, well, it's not real, but it is for us because we're completely immersed in it.
Does it feel more competitive when, with the likes of Sarah Kibble, who was a serving police officer, when one of your fugitives is from the same sort of area as you, so like a serving police officer or was a police officer or ex-military? Do you feel like there's more of a competition there or more of a want to find them?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly if you see a police officer or ex-military person, you get concerned because they'll know things that somebody else might not. And you also know that physically they may be, if they're still relatively young, they're going to be physically capable. So they've got a bit of a challenging package to overcome there. Do we want to catch them more as a result? I guess we do, although we want to catch everybody pretty much the same amount, to be fair, until we start disliking them. And it's always very unfair when we start disliking them because we always discover, and we don't learn from this, by the way, but we always discover afterwards that everyone's lovely. But trust me, when you are trying to catch somebody and they're doing something that's irritating you, or you've been chasing them all day and you've not been able to catch them, you actually do start disliking them. Now you know that it makes no sense to dislike them. You don't know them, and you know that after the TV show's finished and you're going to meet them, you're going to feel terribly bad about disliking them because they're going to be lovely, but you still dislike them.
And I guess the prime example there is 3 words. The bloody Speakmans for you, because you gave them some right. We had some. Do you know what we loved about when you guys came in was the fact that it became a little bit more quotey. Whether that was purposely done or not, we don't know. But like we get Lisa's, you're soft as shite to Mark. That's what you are. Get off the fence and pick one. We get you with a number of them in the last Celebrity Hunted. Obviously, it's like Hansel and Gretel grew up and became serial killers, that sort of thing.
I still feel bad about
it. I know. I was going to say that's what I was going to ask. Like, is that something which comes naturally to you in the investigative process in terms of, that gameplay, that point that you're in your life, or is that something which is just sort of thrown at you and said, "Oh, slip this in if you can"?
No, that came completely from my own thoughts. I've been looking at those mug shots for a long time. And that just came into my head. And so I said it, and I think it's that kind of dark humour that you get in, a lot of public services that deal with, the darker side of life. You sometimes get that sort of sense of humour, and when that was played, I was sat next to my wife and we were watching it on the TV. Oh my goodness me, she looked at me daggers. She said, "Why do you say that?"
We probably didn't help you with that.
No, you didn't help me with that, actually.
we never, one thing, we will apologise for it, because one thing we sort of did with the podcast, we had no idea where we wanted to take it. We just did it as 10 episodes and see where it was, and then we parked it over Christmas. We did Raymondo Clause, which was great. We enjoyed that.
That was
12 Rays of Christmas was quite a good one. Whilst moving house, which was quite stressful. And then when Celebrity Hunter came on, we said, should we do it? And it sort of took off a little bit. And we decided to do Quote of the Week at the start. And obviously you were throwing in loads of them. And then I thought, actually, no, we probably shouldn't share some of these quotes. Just leave them as they are. And then we changed it to Dipshit of the Week.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you've got to remember, though, that these quotes, so we're in this, I think it's 99 point something % of what's filmed or whatever it is, a high percentage is never shown. So if you make a comment, and it can sound like you're doing a comment, oh, look, Ray's throwing them in all the time. Over the period of filming, that could be very few. You might be putting in one a week, but by the time it's aired, it looks like he's putting them in all the time.
I think that's a narrative they took, from an editorial point of view, with the Speakmans, because they were clearly irritating you as an entire team because of what they were doing. There would have been so much that we didn't see, but you were literally on the tails all the time, but you just couldn't quite get to them, which is what led to bloody Speakmans. That's exactly if the dog does something to me, bloody dog's doing me head in. You know what I mean?
Oh, it is, and it's and I can remember I said to you earlier that we were trying to track them on AMPR. This wasn't towards the end, because that helped out towards the end as well. But the way that it works is that because we just can't be given information that wouldn't exist, the researchers have to find the AMPR cameras. Now, of course, that's not how it works in the real world. In the real world, if you go through AMPR, you get notification. But they've got some mapping, but there is no map of all AMPR cameras. So the researchers go on Google Earth and basically follow the roadway and find the AMPR cameras, and then we put in a request. And if the vehicle that they're in went through that AMPR camera, then we get notified. Now, that can obviously take a long time sometimes, and we've been chasing the Speakmans all around on these AMPR cameras, and my sense of frustration, because we'd wasted an entire day doing this and not got them, and that, it comes through, it comes out, and it's nothing to do with them, really. It's just a frustration of the situation.
What about when you watch it back? Because obviously, you don't see everything that they get up to. No. They don't see everything that you get up to and what they say. When you watch it back and they're in London and they're on Heart FM and then at the Crystal Maze, and you see how close Jordan and Shaz were to them.
Yeah.
Literally almost from me to you. Do you sit there and just think, oh my God?
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, you do. But you also have some respect there, because when they did the Heart FM thing and came out with Amanda Holden disguised up, that was a good disguise. That was a good disguise, and I can't remember who spotted it in the end. I think it might have been Daisy, I don't know. But with the fake tattoos, I would have probably just looked at that picture and it wouldn't have dawned on me. But I think it was, what was the reason that they saw it? Was it the legs or something? There was something quite small in the photo with Amanda Holden that actually identified that it was them and gave us that clue. Which is amazing for someone to have seen, but I wouldn't have seen. I've got to be honest, I wouldn't have seen it. And I think those disguises, and they had a number of disguises during that series, and they did a really good job, because they weren't silly disguises. I suppose they were silly, but they were believable.
Yeah, that's the thing for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
People talk about disguises all the time, and we get we're frustrated. Carleen Crowe, we mentioned it before. It's just a wig, and it's a bad wig.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really not
a wig
great.
that draws attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we saw the Vivian and Chloe, didn't we, in that episode, and they dress up as old ladies with fantastic makeup. But if you think if those two people walking down the road, you know that they're not old ladies immediately.
Because of the way they walk. It's not just how they look. You've got to be looking beyond that, the mannerisms and things like that as well. And
exactly.
If you know that, I don't know, for example, a celebrity or a fugitive has got a limp because of a previous injury, they're not going to be able to disguise that.
No.
And it's going to be quite obvious. And it's those little things which I guess you have to you almost have to look at things in a different way. It's like looking at a picture, and rather than looking at what's there in front of you in the foreground, you've got to be looking at the background.
Yeah.
And looking at those little smaller, minute
and
details.
so if someone was looking for them and they saw those two people walking along, and immediately they go, well, that's not right.
Yeah.
That just isn't right. There's two people with a load of latex on looking like, pretending to be like old ladies. Whereas where you saw it with the Speakmans, whether he had the long dark wig and the fake tattoos, certainly at a distance, you wouldn't think about it.
Yeah, because they went for things that were, I guess, more believable, just like, I think at one point they had a baby in a carrier.
Yes, that's right.
And a fake fat belly. And they did things that were a bit more believable than dressing up as old ladies.
Blended in, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. The bloody Speakmans played an awesome game, didn't they? And they did a lot of people. I think there are people on that series who would have been caught sooner if it wasn't for the Speakmans. They would have been. And people give, grief about this slip up with the aeroplane thing. Do you know what? That didn't help us really at all. We'd already narrowed it down. Yeah, okay, it was helpful, but all it did was give us a little bit more of what we already suspected, and we're looking at in great detail anyway. So,
The only people that you can blame for that, obviously not from your point of view, because you're delighted that gave you an extra little bit of information, give you that extra 2% or whatever. But the only people that really are to blame for that, and this is where I'm going to let you have a rant again, is the production that go, oh, I know what we'll do. Let's do another capture in the air.
It just sort of gets rolled out quite a lot. Here's a helicopter, and a helicopter, and a helicopter, and we'll just throw in a plane and a helicopter.
I mean, we have ideas about what we'd love to see in future series.
What would you love to see? I'd love to know.
A train.
A train.
Yeah. We've always said a train or something to incorporate the underground.
Yeah, I think it's obviously in the real world, you wouldn't get a train to get out the country. But I think in terms of the gameplay, you have to sort of reach a certain point.
Yeah.
And there are hidden lines on the underground. Common knowledge that there are hidden rounds. Yeah. Some of them which are still active.
And unused stations.
Unused stations.
It's really James Bond, that, isn't it?
I know. But there are some lines which are active, which get certain high-profile people from A to B very quickly and what have you. But it's a good way of getting from going undetected, and I think that's the thing, reaching that point, almost like the heist was, where if you reached a point and you exchanged your
dirty cash
for clean, it's exactly the same thing. You'd disappear off into almost getting new identities. That could be the way of doing it. It's about how the story would be written and created. You've got to get to this new point to get new identities. If you think about the criminal world, someone has gone on the run and gone hunted. Let's use Daniel Khalif for a prime example. Obviously, was in the mainstream media. Obviously, really glad that he was caught, but it took a while. He would have been planning to reach out to associates to change his identity to get out of the country using a false passport. So it's the same sort of thing is what I'm trying to create. That thing of, but it doesn't take 2 minutes. You're not going to oh, right, I've sprung out of prison or I've escaped from whoever. I'm not just going to go and knock on my mate's door and get a passport. It's going to take time to print and to process and to get it right and to make those arrangements and get them in place. And maybe that 21, 25-day window is equivalent to what it might be. So in terms of this train extraction, which we're trying to think of, you get on the tube, you extract, and then someone's there to hand you a brown envelope with your new identity, and there you are.
Yeah.
You're away. And it's that sort of story. So I think that's why we kind of like to see it. Maybe another boat as well. Let's throw a boat in there.
Do you reckon you think that would be a good thing? Sadly, we don't have any say in that whatsoever from our side of things, but I'll have a word with Shine, see what they can come up with.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, we're here for the ideas, aren't we? We're here to not improve, but just to mix it up a little bit for...
Yeah.
Well, because we talked, didn't we, remember about Bobby, because Bobby had spoken to somebody in the new series.
Yes, he had, yeah.
We talk about that, but I think there's rules around that as well. So we can, because we couldn't bring Bobby in and say what they told. Yeah, what did you tell them? Because it's outside of the rules.
So there you go. That's part one done of our conversation with Deputy Ray Howard. We had some good chats in there, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Particularly like the conversation about the heist.
Yes.
Really interesting. And actually, you know, the more I've thought about it since, the more I actually love that fact that they had the money and that no matter what they brought, they didn't have to give it back.
No, I like that. They got to keep what they bought.
Yeah, especially those that went on holiday and had the holiday which they wanted with the kids. That was really, really good. We definitely need to do a Heist Revisited series, don't we? Write it down in your calendar for 2024.
Okay.
By the way, whilst you're there, write it in your calendar. Come on, get your phone out. Write it in your calendar. Write it in your calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whilst you're there, earmark next week's date. Yeah. For part 2 of the thing with Raymondo. Done? Excellent. So that's in there for 2024.
Yeah.
Next week, part 2 of the Raymondo thing. Obviously, we've just finished off. You just heard him talk about Celebrity Hunted. Hopefully out in 2024. All of our fingers crossed. All of our Christmas wishes. Again, we don't know when. Stop asking us.
No, we've got no idea.
We know people on the inside, but they don't know either. No one knows yet. No one knows yet. As soon as we know, you'll know. Simple as. But we just heard him talking about Bobby Seagull there and his potential help and a potential return for him, which sadly couldn't happen.
No.
When we return, well, we are talking about Redacted. You'll have to wait and see next week, won't you? If you've enjoyed the episode and want to leave your comments and want to get any questions, if you've got any suggestions about who you want to see on the capture calendar or who you want to see interviewed next year in 2024, here's how.
Twitter @HuntedPod, Instagram @HuntedPod, Facebook HuntedPod, or email huntedpod@outlook.com. And if you email us, please say something, not just hi.
Yeah, why don't you write Merry Christmas?
Yeah.
That's it, Christmas.
Be nice.
Unless you're stumbling across this podcast in mid-August and you've never heard about us before, and you think
then don't say Merry Christmas because that'd be weird.
Actually, no, do, because it'd be quite a laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, it's December. We're recording this in December. These are our Christmas episodes. That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be a dipshit. You know what I mean. Right. That's all we've got time for. Make sure you join us next week on the Hunted Podcast for more from Deputy Ray Howard. Until then, do you want to hear a Christmas joke?
Go on then.
Why did Santa divorce his wife?
I don't know why did Santa divorce his wife.
Because she was a...
Could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. And when they try to change, you can say no, free me.